Hey everybody, I'm Chef Joel Gamoran, host of Scraps on A&E, and I've teamed up with Morton Salt to erase food waste. When it comes to food waste, the big game is a big contender. You know, when you have a bunch of people over, especially a bunch of dudes, right, you're gonna have leftover guac, you're gonna have a huge veggie platter, check this out, with, you know, all the fixin', the pepperoncini, the radishes, the celery sticks, and there's always some left over. And the reality is, a lot of the times it gets thrown away. But in America, we throw away way too much. So how can you take these leftovers and throw it for a touchdown? So here we go. So I've got some guacamole, and this is gonna be kind of crazy. We're gonna make a green goddess dressing out of this. So you're not gonna believe the way this kind of transforms itself. So I just got a bowl, and I'm gonna grab the guac, and I'm just gonna take like a tablespoon, a big heaping tablespoon, right into the bowl, right? And if you think about what's in guacamole, there's onion, there's tomatoes, there's lime juice, there's cilantro. These are all things that make for a gorgeous salad dressing. So it makes sense, right? I've got a little bit of buttermilk, and that's just gonna kind of thin it out. This is gonna be kind of a creamy dressing. That looks great. Lots of pepper. I'm a big pepper dude, especially in a dressing, like a wedge salad or something. I like a little heat. And then of course, I've got some Morton's beautiful fine sea salt. And this is really important. Fine sea salt matters because you want it to kind of disintegrate and dissolve into the mixture. So this is a really, really important key piece here. All right, so that's gonna go in. You're just gonna kind of whisk that through. And look at this. I mean, within seconds, you have this really creamy, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Green goddess dressing. Now, I'm gonna knock this up. I'm gonna kind of pimp it out with some herbs. I've got tarragon. Tarragon is so forgotten. No one buys tarragon, but if you smell it, it smells like a kind of like a sweet black licorice. Really beautiful herb. I've got some mint, and by the way, you don't need all this stuff. I've got basil, but if you have just one of these, it makes a huge difference. So, basil, a little bit of mint, and then tarragon, just some leaves, right? And if I just like smell all that, I mean that under your pillow and you're gonna be a very happy camper. This is gorgeous smelling and it's gonna just really make this salad dressing set off. So I'm just gonna kind of take them all up, roll them like a little cigar and just cut them through, right? And I think one of the things with herbs is when you work with them, you don't want to cut them too fine. Sometimes people go like this and you see chefs on TV getting that really small green bits. When you cut them that small, you lose the flavor. So just once, maybe twice through, and then I always grab a bench scraper, scoop that bad boy up, and right into the dressing. So good kind of bits of herbs floating in there. You can add a little bit of olive oil, just for some richness. And I mean, you have a salad dressing. This, even as a marinade, would be rockin'. This is a dip, would be great, but it was already a dip, so I guess we're taking it to a whole new level. So salad dressing is done. Let's talk about all these vegetables. And you buy those huge platters from the grocery store, and it's like you've got carrot sticks, you've got celery, and it's kind of like, what do you do with all this? So if you don't know what to do on the actual game day or the day after, just freeze them. Vegetables freeze really, really nicely. You can use them in soups, but today, we're gonna pretend it's the next day, and we want to chop it all up. So first I've got a little bit of onion. These are like extra ingredients. Again, you don't need them, but it really will set it off. So I'm just gonna cut this through. And notice how I'm not cutting all the way through the onion, how the onion is still whole. I just cut to the very end, that little kind of bristly part. And then I'm gonna cut horizontally and cut this small. Now I'm kind of making a chopped salad because I feel like when you have lots of veggies like this, it's nice to kind of just chop it up. And you know me, I don't like to waste much, so all the way to the nub. And if you're wondering what you can do with this nub, I guess you could throw it in stock, but not much, it's a nub. So chop that up. This is radicchio, again, a nice halve, you don't need it, but I'm just gonna kind of split it in half and then just kind of hack it up. Beautiful. I've got some cukes. These would be like leftover from like, you know, something you would dip ranch in or something like that. Again, I'm just kind of hacking it up. I don't like when salads have perfect slices of anything. I like rustic. It makes it feel more homemade. There's different shapes. So some I'm cutting kind of small, some cutting big. You know, when you're cooking, you don't want different shapes. But in salads, it's kind of like a song. You want it to have different levels. If a song sounded the same the entire time, boring song. And if a salad just has the same texture the entire time, boring salad. So to have different kind of things going on, it's good. So for these radishes, by the way, the tops are like dreamy. So those are going in. And then the radish itself, this is a good tip. anytime you have a rolly vegetable, like a potato or something like this, just kind of give a little knock off the bottom so it sits flat. And that way, it won't roll on you and you won't cut yourself. So I'm just gonna slice these nice and thin. Beautiful. And you can see I'm just making a big mess, but like, it's a beautiful mess. This is what it's all about. I got a little pepperoncini. And again, you can use all these vegetables, but you can see there's not a lot of science to this. I'm just kind of hacking everything up. It's like a kitchen sink salad. I got some cherry tomatoes. This is a great trick. Instead of standing there and just doing each tomato one at a time, you can grab a couple of plates or something like that and grab your whole mess of tomatoes, right? Turn that plate upside down. Just kind of stack them on here. Other plate right on top. And you can put your knife right between. And you just saved a bunch of work, right? So you have these nice kind of cut in half cherry tomatoes. So you have this beautiful bit of veggies. This is all ready to go in its pool. So I'm gonna grab all of them and put them into our dressing. This looks really good. This looks awesome. And I think it's kind of cool to take, you know, especially after game day, you've eaten rich food, probably not the healthiest food. So it's nice to make a good salad for the week, right? I mean, you feel good about it. All right, I've got some arugula. Again, you don't need it, but it's gonna add a little spiciness to it. A little bit of watercress, and then just a hit of lemon, just for some acid. And then again, you know, I always salt salads right before I eat them. So a little bit more of that Morton fine salt. And I like fine again here, so you don't taste the crystals. It more just kind of dances and falls through the whole salad. So if you take this to work, wait before you season at work. Don't season before, otherwise all the water is gonna come out of the vegetables. All right, I'm gonna toss this through. And I was always told in culinary school, and with every chef I've ever worked with, don't be too rough with a salad. Like, treat a salad nicely, right? Gentle, because you've got all these greens in there. You don't want them to wilt. This looks really good. For a salad, this looks awesome. Please. All right, don't judge me, but every chef in the world uses the best tools you have when it comes to plating. So nice, beautiful green goddess, repurposed. All right, and I just kind of like to pile it high. This looks gorgeous. You should feel proud of that. That's awesome. We've all been to a Super Bowl party where it has a big meat board like this, right? We call this charcuterie. And so I wanted to turn this into a insane, I'm talking like incredible pasta dish that's gonna knock your socks off. This is fettuccine carbonara with yesterday's charcuterie. So check this out. First, we've got the pasta. And I think when it comes to cooking pasta, there's a lot of questions about what's right, what's not right. So we've got some fettuccine right here. This is already cooked. But how much do you salt and what kind of salt do you use? So I'm using Morton's fine sea salt, and you want to get a good fistful. When I was in culinary school in Italy, I had one of our instructors say, season it like the sea. So like when you taste it, you should make a face, right? Like as if you swallowed a little bit of seawater. I think that's a little too salty, but you want to get it close to that. That's about right, so that's perfect. So the pasta is doing its thing. Now let's talk about all this leftover charcuterie, all these little bits and bobs. So it looks like we've got some soppressata. I haven't even seen this yet, but you could imagine, right? Some prosciutto, and it really doesn't matter. This looks like it could be chorizo of some sort or a hot soppressata. So what I like to do is I like to cut this all up into kind of bite-sized pieces, right? Just like this, like little squares. So I'm just gonna kind of do it here and just kind of get them all going, and they can all get mixed. Now this dish, if you've ever made it before, is like maybe the best pasta dish in the face of the planet. So if you can nail it, you're good forever. Now if you have some frozen peas, by the way, in the fridge, use them, because peas in this, unreal, unreal. All right, I grabbed a couple more because I'm like smelling this and now I want more. All right, beautiful. So you can see, not very, you know, crazy. I just kind of hacked it all up, and we have all these beautiful kind of different meats. And you can think about all the different flavor, all the different fats, all the different spices. It's gonna add a lot to this. So I'm gonna grab all of these and add it to a dry pan, and you can hear the sizzle. That sounds really good. We didn't add any olive oil to this. You can add just like a little glug, but it doesn't need much because there's a lot of fat inside the actual charcuterie themselves. So we're gonna let that go. Hopefully I don't set off the fire alarm, but we'll turn it down a little bit. It smells really good. All right, so while that's doing, and it's kind of getting crispy, like imagine like bacon or something like that. All right, I'm just gonna kind of put this over here. Let the pan cool. If you ever have a hot pan where it's smoking like this, just move it to the side, right? It's no big deal. So I'm just gonna set it on top of my pasta, let it hang. All right, I've got a couple of eggs. These eggs are what makes the carbonara creamy. There is no cream in this. It is an egg-based dish. So what I'm gonna do is separate the white from the yolk. So all you gotta do is crack your egg on a flat surface, right? Let your whites fall while passing, that happens. Passing your yolk, and here's how you save it. So I got most of my yolk there, but you can grab a little shell and save most of it. So don't worry if that happens to you. I'll grab one little bit. Beautiful. Let's do it on the other one. And you crack on a flat surface so you can start with a whole yolk like this, so it's easier to pass back and forth. All right, that looks great. Now, for your egg whites, I mean, think egg white frittata, think omelet, think, you know, meringue. There's so much you can do with it. By the way, just check these guys out. Can you see those? Oh my gosh, they're getting so crispy and delicious. All right, now back on the heat. I think it needs it. So, pinch of chili. Speaking of heat, all right, garlic. You do not, I wanna make sure that you don't make out with anyone after this dish. This garlic needs to like punch you in the face. It's part of the dish. So, I'm gonna just whack off the skin here, right? Easy. And then this is a really cool trick when you have garlic. So if you want a really garlicky flavor to whatever you're making, right? And in this case, let me just grab this last little skin off. It doesn't want to come off, that's fine. So in this case, we've got this pasta. We really want pronounced garlic flavor. What I like to do is smash the garlic again, right? Chop it up, just rough chop. And then grab a little bit more of that Morton fine sea salt. Look at this. And salt your garlic, all right? And what this does is it acts as like a bunch of little knives. You can hear it, right? And it actually breaks down the garlic. Got a little skin in there, it's totally fine. So it makes the garlic more of a paste. And then you can take the side of your knife and smear the garlic. You see that? And you can hear the salt helping. And look at this. The garlic almost turns translucent. And that right there is much more pungent, much more strong garlic than just chopping it up and adding it to this dish. So try the salt trick, you will love it. I'm gonna add the garlic in. Let's check all of our little pieces of charcuterie. These look incredible. I wanna make sure you guys can see that. So that's about right, you know? And they're gonna really crisp up when you get them off the heat. So I'm gonna grab all these guys, and I'm gonna add them in. And this is gonna start to cook that egg. Because this is not a raw egg dish, trust me. All right, so I'm gonna grab a whisk and I'm just gonna kind of whisk all this together. The garlic, the chili, the egg yolk. And the egg yolk at this point is pretty much cooked with those hot little meat pieces we put on there. Beautiful. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. This is just gonna loosen up the mixture. And then, I'm not gonna swear, but a beep amount of Parmesan, because Parmesan rocks, and it's gonna add salty and depth and texture. Oh, this is everything, man. This is everything. So a good like half cup of Parmesan. And by the way, when you get Parmesan, look for Parmesan that has this little stamp on it. That's the real stuff. None of that sawdust crap you already get in a can. That won't taste good here. All right, so what we're gonna do next is grab our pasta. Very important, we do not drain the pasta. We leave it once it's cooked. We grab the pasta out of its water and put the hot pasta into the bowl. I just wanna make sure you guys can see this. We want some of that water to actually hit the egg. That hot water with the starch in it and the salt is gonna be the base sauce. That is the sauce. And I think some people forget that pasta water is its own scrap. It's this thing that we always drain down the actual sink itself. And the reality is the pasta water is gold. All right, so lots of pasta, and now just give it a big mess, right? Just kind of toss it through, get everything in there. And at this point, the egg is cooking. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. And you know what it needs? Black pepper. lots of it. So tons of black pepper. You've probably heard of the dish cacio e pepe, which is just cheese and black pepper. You know, black pepper and pasta, man, just that is so good. All right, so now, when plating pasta, this looks so insane. Grab your plate, and a good trick, we do this in restaurants all the time, is to grab your pasta, right? Put it down and then twist. And that way the pasta kind of sits up. And that's important because when food comes at you as you're eating it, it's a little bit more enticing. You kind of want it more. You'll see that a lot when you go out to eat. Chefs like to plate it nice and tall. So that's kind of a cool trick. You don't need these skinny tongs to do it. You can do it with normal tongs, but it's a good trick to kind of know. Look at this. It's really great. And such a cool way to repurpose, you know, yesterday's charcuterie or meat board. All right, a little more cheese, because you guys know how I feel about it. A little bit more black pepper, because you know how I feel about that too. Beautiful. And then maybe just a hit of olive oil, the way they do it in Italy. And that right there, my friends, is how you take a meat board after Super Bowl and turn it into something glorious. Thanks for watching.